It's been a minute since we've looked at anything football related. It's been a long time on the channel since we looked at anything to do with ultras. We're about to take a look at a video why ultras are so important for football. Now, the video I looked at, and I'll link it somewhere up here, was the best, I want to say chance, best ultras chance or something of that nature. I know there's quite a few of them and from all over the world. It was just interesting to see the passion that people have in the stands, and some of the little bit of craziness it looks like goes in the stands. So I think looking at why ultras are so important for football, something I probably should have done quite a while ago, but we're doing it now. So yeah, let's go on ahead and get into it, and let's see what this video has to say.
We see ultras all around the world. From the frightening to the incredible, they are clearly the beating heart of many football clubs.
Bro, and the amount of jumping that we've, like, just in that little bit that they've shown so far, I'm surprised more stands don't just collapse. Holy crap. There's a lot of people jumping in concert with each other, so you know it's got to be stressing the support structures, so maybe just a wee little bit sometimes.
But they're also a source of controversy. So we decided to break it down once and for all. What is an ultra? And what do they do? We've all grown used to scenes like this out of Italy and Germany. Scenes from this to this in the MLS. The glory of the Balkans, and all too often see them portrayed as criminals for moments like this. But what are ultras and what do they do? Originally used by the Gazzetta dello Sport to describe a group of supporters in the 1960s, ultras or ultras are one of the most broadly defined subcultures in the world. However, the term was only appropriated by an actual fan group in 1969, with Sampdoria's Ultras Tito Cucciaroni and Torino's Ultras Granata. Since then, fans have reappropriated the
Another thing I've noticed with ultras, they love flares and fire. Holy crap. Holy crap. Just that car, that video right there, just that little clip of that car going down the road, and there's just, everybody seems to have flares. But in the stands and the videos I've looked at, there's always, like, not always, but there's a good number of the clips show people with flares, which is, bro, I mean, you want to take and be seen, there you go.
The name, but given the global reach of the game, the term is far from clearly defined. Italians interpreted foreign styles of spectatorship and made their own, something between the South American barras and Brazilian torcidas and the British hooligans. Thus, ultras groups were established, born to represent the distinct cultures and traditions from which they originated. Taking inspiration from the time of city-states, in which autonomous cities would defend their identity and their interests against others, ultras value the defense of their territory, which is a feeling that has its roots in the historical age. They are the most fanatic supporters of a team, representing a sort of 12th man.
Contributing to what's happening on the field, there's like no feeling like it.
An ultra...
Talking about, you know, the defending their territory and stuff like that, I will say one of the interesting things that just by watching some of the video that I've seen is the insane amount of tribalism. Somebody said it best, one of my comments, talking about basically you're born into it, pretty much. And so I wonder how many people, you know, how many of these fans or how many ultras, basically their parents and grandparents, are part of the same deal.
Is constantly committed to the club, setting up for match days and social events during the week, attending training sessions and youth games, and showing up hours ahead of match day for any last-minute preparations. Away matches are especially important. It's where one proves their true commitment to the group.
We played in Bremen, and there were 20,000 people coming to that game and 16,000 from St. Pauli.
And the opportunity to show off your pride in another territory. This comes in the form of choreographies, flags, chants, banners, and fanzines. The strongest expression of these rituals are usually reserved for anniversaries of the clubs, legendary players, the fan groups themselves, derbies, rivalry games, and finally, big cup matches. Ultras have always been characterised by their rebellious nature. Unlike the British, whose support largely rides on reacting to what's happening on the pitch, Ultras make their own show, beyond the result.
Eddig nagyon nagy munka van mögötte, akár egy hónappal előtte nekiállunk. Ezt a klub nem finanszírozás, saját erőnkből alkotjuk meg mindig, saját szabadidő és anyagi tekintetben is.
Drums, flares, megaphones, smoke bombs, the opportunity to freely express a collective idea and a unity of devotion all contribute to this atmosphere. Whenever possible, Ultras will march through a city in a corteo, making sure their presence is well known. The group mentality is essential to being an Ultra. Rivalry and friendship are the most confusing and turbulent parts of Ultras culture. Of course, there are derbies between two teams of the same city or town, but the motivation behind friendships and distances between these relationships can be truly remarkable. Despite being rivals, Genoa and Sampdoria both have a friendship with Boca Juniors for their connection of immigrants established in the club. Crvena Zvezda's Delier, Olympiacos Gate 7 and Spartak Moscow's Fratria have a connection based on being the dominant team from three Orthodox nations. Just as Ultras took inspiration from political protest, the actions of Ultra groups have been influenced by political ideologies ranging from avowed nationalists to anti-fascists. For example,
so the fact that you're combining not only sports, but in some cases also political ideology, the fervency that you're going to take and get can be, I imagine, absolute fever pitch. It's a hell of a combination, to be honest with you, because it seems like other than religion, there's only two things that can fire people up to the point of almost insanity, and it's sports and politics. You know, their personal brand of politics a lot of times.
Example, Celtic's Green Brigade, who forge international links and friendships with other anti-fascist ultra groups across Europe on political grounds, as can be seen with their friendship with German side St. Pauli. While on the contrary, Lazio's Irriducibili consider Livorno and Atalanta among their biggest rivals due to their political stance. Lazio's ultras consider themselves to be far-right, while Livorno and Atalanta fans are left-wing. In recent decades, the culture has become a focal point for the movement against the commercialization of sports and football in particular. Big TV contracts have left stadiums empty, ticket prices are on the rise, and players seem to live in a different reality, where loyalty is lost and the chance of signing for a higher wage bill wins over the chance of acquiring legendary status amongst a group of fans. To ultras, football at the highest level often feels like a sanitized product, built more for those in the main stand and in commercial suites than for the most devoted fans behind the goal. Simultaneously, authorities continue to innovate new forms of repression against fans.
Bejussunk Magyarországon egy stadionba, legalábbis itt a Fradinál, kell egy személyigazolvány, egy szurkolói kártya, ami tartalmazza a születési dátumot, az édesanyja nevét, e-mail címét, a címét, illetve a tenyérlenyomatát.
Bans on pyro,
and the palm print. Oh, they gonna make sure that if you mess up or you commit a crime, that palm print's definitely gonna take and help them find out who done what.
megaphones and drums, bans on standing room and away travel have had little to no impact of instances on stadium violence. Today, maneuvering the minefield of stadium laws has become a nightmare. These laws have been introduced under the guise of reducing instances of violence at football, but have largely had the adverse effect of killing the atmosphere at many grounds. The fringe elements of these groups, who seek out physical confrontation, continue to operate, as security forces hopelessly seek to curb it through football-specific legislation.
Yeah, but you might take and keep people out of the stadiums, but if they're going to travel to support the team, doesn't mean they have to go into the stadium. Now you're just going to take and move the violence from the stadium to the streets, which is an even bigger problem if I had to venture a guess.
This has left fans feeling criminalised, suspicious that states and corresponding football federations would rather see them banished from the game. Whatever your club or political affiliation, the breadth of Ultras culture around the world is a testament to this beautiful game. At times, this passion can escalate into violence, but this is not an Ultras problem, but a societal one. An Ultras group's existence revolves around intense, coordinated support for their team through vibrant displays during matches, making noise on the terraces, and highlighting, publicising, and furthering issues affecting their local territory and in solidarity with other supporter communities.
I have to venture a guess. I have to venture this guess that if you're an Ultra for a team and the area that the team represents, or the city or whatever, is not well to do, it's not well off, there's not a lot of jobs, and you're partially or possibly fully dependent on the government, and the continued policy of your government is hurting your standing in life. And I can only imagine how much the feeling of representation and anything good that might happen gets transferred to that club. That's a whole different, like, here in America, like, we got some crazy, fan bases as far as college football or some of the pro teams, but there's not there's like really there's nothing I haven't seen. I haven't seen anything whatsoever across any of the sports here in the U.S. like what I've seen, just taking a just even with the chant videos, the ultras chant video, seeing nothing in comparison here. And so I can only imagine how much the fervency, if a team represents that much, especially in some, impoverished areas, or, some politically divisive areas. I could only just imagine how much more they feel the representation, not only that the club that they're ultras for reflects them. Like, that's a different kind of that's a different kind of passion. That's a different kind. That's all. That probably would be borderline cult fervency.
In Egypt, the ultras of Al Ahly and Zamalek have largely been credited for their pivotal role in the uprising of the Egyptian revolution. These are just a small number of the incredible initiatives regularly organised by nearly every ultras group in the world. Like all groups, ultras are hard to stereotype and even harder to define. But one thing is for sure, they are not all criminals, and when it comes to football, they remind us of a purer game. One in which you go out and support your team regardless of the names on the back of the shirt, turning friends into family and being proud of where you come from.
That was a really good. Ooh, there's another video on the little thing there that I might take a look, check out too. It looks like, but this is. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm gonna really be honest with you. Like, it's been. Like, the level of fandom that people in this country think they have for their teams, especially the professional teams, in some cases. And see, this is where a lot of people don't quite understand, because the chants and stuff like that, you're not going to take in here in a lot of. You're not going to hear it like in the NFL. You'll hear some craziness, and there's chants and there's fight songs and all that stuff for college sports, more so than you'll take and find in any NFL team, for any pro team. And the fervency you'll take and see, other than outside of places maybe like Chicago and Green Bay and maybe Boston with like the Red Sox, maybe Philadelphia with the Eagles, and like New York with probably the Knicks and the Giants or the Jets. But even then, like, the intensity of it's nothing like the fervency you'll take and see from Alabama fans or LSU fans or Texas Longhorn fans, or some of these, or some other like Ohio State fans or Michigan fans. Like, you just Michigan Wolverine fans. Like, it's a different level of fervency and like fandom. And you can be diehard. You can be really diehard. Like, that's the. But even with that, there's nothing that compares to this whatsoever. So for me, stuff like this is absolutely fascinating. And the fact that it makes more sense, especially for some of these clubs, the ultras for some of these clubs, that their identity and be tied in with something, with the team, because of the situation of the area that they're in. Like, it makes more sense in that sense than people here whose identity is tied up in a college or a professional football team. It just, no two ways about it. Definitely Very, very fascinating, very, very interesting, very, very cool though. The way they took and went about this, it kept you engaged while at the same time telling, informing you. So I really enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you yeah, come back for some more because we're gonna keep looking at some what I would consider some cool videos. But y'all be good to each other. Love yourselves. Peace.